There's no doubt it'll be enjoyed in bars tonight, this afternoon, and at football games tomorrow. Beer may be an American tradition, but it was first brewed in distant lands thousands of years ago. Now one woman is using beer as a way to reconnect with her ancestral home and family heritage. Roxana Saberi has her story.
At this brewery in New York, Zahra Tabatabai is trying to bring beer back to its roots.
Look at that. Oh, and look, the pink is in the foam.
With a taste of who she is.
The blue salt.
The blue salt, yeah. It's mild, it's sourced from the Middle East.
And where her family came from.
Not only being a woman, but also having Middle Eastern descent or parents that immigrated here from Iran. I think both factors kind of play into how people see me.
Before Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution, about a dozen Iranian factories produced beer, vodka, and other liquors.
All of these things, when the revolution happened, were just condemned, and that's when alcohol was prohibited in the country.
Tabatabai's grandfather, who immigrated to the U.S. soon after, used to ferment beer in his basement in Iran. One day in 2020, her grandmother reminisced out loud she missed the taste of it.
It sparked the idea to try to brew a batch and see. Figured, oh, well, you know, it can't be that hard.
It can't be that hard.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty hard.
As the pandemic set in, Tabatabai, who was working as a freelance writer, experimented in her small Brooklyn kitchen.
I started that as a hobby, trying different ingredients.
What kind of ingredients?
I would use anything from sour cherries to barberries to dried black limes, sumac. The stories that I heard from my grandfather was like, oh, whatever they were kind of growing in the garden. So that's what he would use in the beer.
A year later, she rented this space on Staten Island and began rolling out cans of back-home beer.
It's fruited with sour cherries, which in Iran we use to make jams, and a really delicious and beautiful and bright sour cherry rice.
Albalu polo, it's one of my favorites.
Exactly, yes, it's delicious, and also sumac. And the sumac in this beer is cured. So here we say salamati.
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 American-made beer follows European traditions, but historians say evidence of beer making dates back many millennia to China and ancient Mesopotamia, located in modern-day Iraq and Iran.
If you think about the Tigris-Euphrates River Valley, that's usually, when we talk about the beginnings of agriculture, that's usually where you're going to see some of the earliest evidence for beer making as well.
And Liz Garibay, the founder of Chicago's Beer Culture Center, says the original brewers were mainly women.
You will see a lot of hieroglyphs with women drinking and making beer.
So it wasn't extraordinary for women to be involved in brewing, it was ordinary.
Absolutely. It was everyday stuff. They've been doing it forever.
Why did the role of women in brewing diminish over the years?
Laws start changing, beer becomes business, and then that just means access to resources is incredibly limited for women.
When Islam arose in the region in the 7th century, it forbade the drinking of alcohol. Still, beer and winemaking in the Middle East continued to evolve.
I was disheartened to see that such a rich history of fermentation had almost been erased. And so for me, it was important to make that connection again between alcohol and the Middle East.
Now Tabatabai is selling 6 styles, each can designed by female Iranian artists.
This is a Rumi quote that she put on there. It says, "If light is in your heart, you will find your way home."
She delivers to more than 250 bars, restaurants, and shops in New York and Washington, D.C.
You really do have to be the change you want to see sometimes. And so in an industry like this that is dominated by white men, I came in, I didn't have any experience working in breweries or anything like that. And I've really had to learn a lot.
These days, only around 6% of breweries in the U.S. are majority or exclusively owned by women. Even fewer are run by women of color.
There are always things that happen throughout the process that I question if they would happen if I were a man.
Like what?
Assuming that I'm not the owner or the boss and I'm the assistant, or not giving me the time of day, and so many breweries not taking me seriously.
But Tabatabai says she's also grateful for a lot of support. From inside Iran, where Iranians sent her messages like these, asking for advice on brewing their own beer at home illegally.
They definitely brew at their own risk. And it's amazing the beer that they are making with such limited resources there.
And online, where her Kickstarter campaign recently raised more than $125,000.
My vision ultimately is to have my own brewery and tap room, to tell people to come to my home, come back home, drink this delicious beer, eat some Persian street food.
And she says she hopes brewing this beer will keep shaking up stereotypes.
Hopefully one day I can visit Iran and I can brew the beer there and they can live in a country that used to exist before the revolution.
And you can drink your beer freely
Yes.
outside on the streets.
Yes, I
of
would love
Iran
to. I would love
with
to.
the Iranians.
Tabatabaie.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Roxana Saberi, New York.
Crack that one open. This, I loved it. If light is in your heart, you will find your way home. I already snuck a taste. I really liked this.
Yeah,
I really like this.
I love that a woman is at the center of this, taking back not only her own power in her history and culture,
Yeah.
but taking it back for so many women who, were a part historically of an industry that was so rich.
And has a voice for so many who can't, and the beer that can't be created as people are making it back home illegally.
And she's getting these texts from people for advice on brewing beer illegally.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's
Yeah.
insane.